Philadelphians know hard work, but you don't have to do it all yourself. TaskRabbit has been helping residents in the city of brotherly love for over a decade with everything from furniture assembly to minor home repairs. Don't let that to-do list ruin your weekend. Use the TaskRabbit app to describe what you need and find a skilled tasker in your neighborhood. Also, there's transparent pricing, so you'll be able to see the hourly rate up front, which includes the tasker's rate and the service fee. So there's no surprises at checkout. Download the TaskRabbit app or visit taskrabbit.com today. Hey Philly, Trenae here. At the end of today's episode, I've got a sponsored conversation with the people behind some of Center City's best summer programming, SIPs. We're talking with Giovanna Pruiti, and also joining us is Skylar Carey, a marketing specialist from Era Agency. The police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota 6 years ago prompted an extraordinary reckoning in our nation over police violence and racism in law enforcement. And after weeks of protests here in the city, our government responded, ultimately creating a Citizens Police Oversight Commission. So today, we're taking a look at what the commission does. And is anyone policing the police? It's Wednesday, June 3rd. I'm Trenae Nuri, and we're talking about the politics of policing. Hey, Abby, so a few weeks, you've been really doing a deep dive into how police oversight works in the city. And a few weeks ago, I interviewed Tonya McClary, the executive director of the Citizens Police Oversight Commission. And we're going to talk a little bit about what they do, what their role is, and even what they can't do. But we still had some more questions after that interview. So we did a follow-up email, and then we got some answers.
Yeah, it's been really interesting looking into this. We've had police oversight in our city for a long time, and it's been really interesting to look into this particular iteration.
Yeah, so let's give some background on just how we even got to this point, because for so long in America, communities have been very critical of how policing is done, when force is used, how people are approached or profiled, and even when it comes to police-involved shootings. And so it's important that we're having these conversations about how we're doing policing in the city. And so then you have to fast forward to 6 years ago, 2020, right? And that is when there was a national outcry for police oversight. And this came after several notable killings of Black people in the country. One being George Floyd, the 47-year-old man. And then another one that hit a lot of us was the killing of 26-year-old Breonna Taylor. She was shot and killed in her home during this so-called no-knock search warrant. And again, their deaths had sparked so much national protest, national outcry. I mean, I remember when there was a police-involved shooting here in Philly, and that was after 27-year-old Walter Wallace Jr. was shot and killed outside of his West Philly home. And there were other conversations about how police deal with folks that are having mental health episodes and things like that. But I remember just the aftermath of his killing, and there were curfews. I remember people were looting businesses on 52nd Street. Some businesses were closing early and boarding up windows. And I remember this kind of collective frustration because we were all basically at home seeing this news come across our screens. And it felt sort of crippling in some ways, because it was well, what can we do to stop this? And then over the years in Philly, too, there's been controversial police policies like stop and frisk. When an officer, if they had a reasonable suspicion by basically profiling someone, they could stop that person. They could question them. They could even detain them. And this practice was really targeting mainly Black and Latino populations. And I remember there were so many conversations happening in the city where Black men were speaking up and they were afraid. And so that impacted relations between police and the communities that they're supposed to protect. So this has been sort of, and I guess what I'm trying to say is with all this like context is this has been a complicated history of policing here in the city and in the nation.
Yeah, and all of that speaks to like, you know, how trust has eroded over the years with the public. And then, you know, in 2020 with kind of this national call for more police oversight, Philly, the city council here decided to put a referendum on the ballot asking if Philadelphians wanted to create a Citizens Police Oversight Commission. And that's what ended up happening. It was basically supposed to be like a stronger version of the Police Advisory Commission that was created back in 1990s.
So we had somewhat of an oversight commission.
Yeah, and they wanted to really strengthen it to give this new oversight commission more power. And CPOC, which is what we're calling the Citizens Police Oversight Commission throughout this entire episode, replaced the original version that they had when the ballot measure passed in 2020. And it took a little bit of time. There was a lot of staff turnover, but now the commission has a $3 million budget and it employs 22 people. And they are coming up on their 5-year anniversary, which is going to happen just next week. And they announced, you know, that they're having some events around the anniversary. And it kind of got us thinking about CPOC and what they do and how effective these last 5 years have been.
Right. And if they do have real oversight. And so I talked to Tonya, the executive director of CPOC, about why police oversight is so critical.
It's very important that CPOC exists because it is so important to have a check on our police department, to be able to have an entity whose goal it is to bridge the gap between the community and the police, and to be able to have an objective view of what's going on in the police department. And so, you know, I know that there was a big call, especially after George Floyd, for the abolition of police departments. I think given that Philadelphia has the 4th largest police department in the country, that's not going to happen ever, or if soon. And so in the wake of that, you need an agency whose job it is to be the watchdog and to make sure that the Philadelphia Police Department is really doing 21st century policing.
Yeah, and we aren't the only city doing this. I've seen numbers that there's between like 150 and 200 police oversight agencies across the country. And like I mentioned before, we've had some form of police oversight since like the 50s, 60s, on and off. Yeah, so it's not anything new.
So I want to talk about what CPOC can do right now. So they can do audits of the police department's internal affairs investigations. And so basically what that means, the police department has its own like internal investigations, and then CPOC can do audits on those investigations. Yeah. They can also provide recommendations on how to improve the police department, and they can send that to the mayor, the managing director, and the police commissioner. The commission, CPOC, can also show up to hearings known as the Police Board of Inquiry. And these are hearings about complaints against police.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that particular power is that past commissions have not been able to come to these hearings, and they get to listen to like individuals' complaints of misconduct.
And at these meetings, the public can elaborate on complaints issued to CPOC or directly to the police department. CPOC will also show up to the scene of a police-involved shooting. They also get information about disciplinary actions against police officers and can send recommendations to the police commissioner, who can decide whether he or she will accept or not accept those recommendations. And if they don't accept the recommendations, they have to provide a written explanation of why. There are some monthly meetings. And Abby, these monthly meetings that they have, are those open to the public?
Yeah, they are open to the public, and they are on the second and fourth Thursday of each month. It's at 6 p.m. over Zoom. There's a link in the calendar section of their website if you want to go and listen in on these meetings.
Okay, so there's several different things that this commission does, but how much power does the commission actually have? They can't fire a cop and they can't mandate any policy changes within the department. So we'll talk more about why after the break. As you begin to make your itinerary for summer, add Brooklyn Bowl to the list. Brooklyn Bowl is a perfect blend of live music, bowling, beer, and food. It's located in Fishtown next to the Fillmore. 24 bowling lanes, 2 bars, and a restaurant featuring food from the Blue Ribbon Restaurant Group. It's open Thursday through Saturday evenings with live shows and parties every week. Half price bowling Thursdays, family bowl Saturdays, plus food and drink specials in the restaurant during Phillies games. Go to brooklynbowl.com/Philadelphia to purchase tickets to shows, make a restaurant reservation, or inquire about hosting your next private event on the Brooklyn Bowl lanes. Fitler Club is Philadelphia's best kept secret. Imagine a place where you can start your morning with a workout, jump into a co-working space with private rooms and offices, and then wrap up the day with cocktails and dinner, or even a round of bowling, all under one roof. That's the experience at Fitler Club. Located right across from 30th Street Station, this members-only club is designed for modern city life. The fitness center spans 2 floors with an indoor pool, golf simulators, and even a cold plunge. There are multiple co-working spaces, 2 bars, a restaurant, private balconies, and yes, complimentary babysitting for members, so you can truly focus on you. Ready to join Philly's most unique private club? Visit fitlerclub.com to learn more and apply today. That's fitlerclub.com. Apply now. So when we asked about CPOC's actual powers, we learned that, first of all, the commission does not do their own independent investigations. And here's what Tonya had to say.
In our legislation, and this is what the community voted for, they want us to be able to do independent investigations. Because investigations into misconduct are part of the disciplinary process, the Fraternal Order of Police has taken the stance that it is something that needs to be bargained, meaning that it is something that has to be decided upon in the employment contract because discipline affects the officer's employment. And so because of that, we have to go to the negotiating table with the FOP, with the administration, and bargain over our ability to do that. And so at the last police contract, CPOC was not successful in being able to have the arbitrators award us the ability to do independent investigations. So we are continuing to still push forward to make that happen. So right now it is being seen as kind of an employment issue and therefore bargainable. And so what we're going to continue to do is work with the city's law department to advocate for ourselves as much as we legally can. And so it's really important because our job is to make things better for the community and for police in Philadelphia. And so that means strengthening the disciplinary process. And so we have to continue to fight for our ability to do this. And so that's what we're going to continue to do because it is very important that we be able to take on many of these investigations independently of the police department.
So now we have to bring in a new entity, a new player in this, and that is the Fraternal Order of Police, the police union. They have the ability right now to control who investigates police officers.
Yeah, exactly. And as we heard Tonya say, the union has decided to block CPOC's ability to do any sort of investigations at all. And the union says this is because they believe that the Internal Affairs Department within the police department is the only entity suited to do this type of investigation, which, for context, the police union represents police officers. So it is in their interest to protect officers as much as possible, right? So if you think about it, an independent investigation is conducted in addition to an internal affairs investigation. That could potentially result in a cop getting fired or arrested, or it coming out, the type of misconduct that happened. So the police union's role is really to protect cops from that. And that is why, this big red button that the union has right now to say no external investigations, that's why they're pressing it, right?
Right. And Tonya wants to kind of fight for that ability to do independent investigations.
Yeah. And the current police union contract is up next year. So negotiations for that are going to start probably as soon as the fall. So this is when CPOC can argue for the power to independently investigate. But last time negotiations happened, it didn't really sound like the commission felt like it had a ton of support in these negotiations. I read in a Axios Philly article that CPOC felt that Mayor Sherrell Parker's administration was somewhat unsupportive during those contract talks. So, it's kind of TBD how it will go this time around.
Which is interesting because lawmakers were aware that the union would be able to reject outside investigations when the legislation for CPOP was created. So they should be aware that there was going to be a bit of a dogfight or so over this power.
Right. And that is kind of, when they decided to create CPOC, that was the main difference between them and the rest of the iterations of boards that have done police oversight in the past.
Right.
That
it feels
is
like
really the main thing.
The whole point.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with next year's contract, but that's definitely a sticking point.
When I spoke with Tonya, too, she mentioned that the authority to do these independent investigations is rare when you look at similar agencies across the country. So if they did get this power, it would be a huge deal for police oversight in the city.
Absolutely, absolutely. But in the meantime, they are stuck kind of working directly with internal affairs to do all the audits you mentioned, Trenae, and all of that type of work.
Yeah, and here's Tonya on that point.
Internal affairs is just that. It is actually made up of members of the police department. And so a lot of times they know the officers whose complaints come across their desk. We've heard comments, not necessarily just from Philadelphia, but I've done this work in other cities where you'll hear internal affairs officers say, oh, I know this person. They're a good guy or they're a good girl or, and so tend to kind of lean towards the officer's viewpoint. And so I think having an agency that is objective, whose job it is really to just call the balls and strikes. We don't come in trying to exonerate the officer. We don't come in trying to exonerate the community member. What we do is we would be taking an objective look at what exactly is going on. And so I think that is the very big difference there. And also, I think, Trenae, a lot of trust has just been eroded in the police department. And so I think having an agency who the community, over 500,000 Philadelphians voted to have, actually doing that work, I think will actually help give more confidence in the community that investigations are being done objectively and fairly and transparently.
Yeah, so basically they're just a second set of eyes to give recommendations on how they think cases should be handled, and they can tell the commissioner, we think you should do this, but they're not talking to people. They don't interview people independently. They have to use all of the information that internal affairs is gathering, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did publicly call for Officer Mark Dial to be fired after.
And that was the police officer who was eventually charged with the killing of Eddie Irizarry back in 2023 during a traffic stop.
Yes.
So CPOC mentioned that the police commissioner takes the suggestions, the recommendations, but when we asked, they didn't give stats of how many times the suggestions were actually implemented or if there were any real policy changes.
Yeah, and what it comes down to is the police commissioner doesn't have to take any of these suggestions.
Right. And we mentioned that earlier. Yep.
On the audits or the reviews of police investigations, which could even include officer-involved shootings cases. So
we also looked into like community resources. So what can Philadelphians kind of take away, or how can Philadelphians interact with this commission? And it's limited in its abilities to investigate at the moment. But when we did ask, this is what's available to folks. So again, like you mentioned earlier, the monthly meetings that are on the second and fourth Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. over on Zoom. You can report misconduct to CPOC, and basically that gets redirected to police internal affairs.
Yeah, we asked them exactly like, when should someone contact you? Like, give us some examples. And they said, if you think an officer did not handle a situation properly, there was improper use of authority. So that could be like inappropriate language or tone, any sort of physical abuse, anything like that, call CPOC. They also said, if you're kind of unsure, just call them. They're available 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and they'll answer questions too, just about anything concerning police interactions with the public. Their number is 215-685-0891, and they'll kind of basically be another person watching your case as it goes through the internal investigations through the police department. So it's kind of like, you've got another person making sure,
helping you to navigate the system. Yeah, totally.
Exactly. So even while CPOC is not doing the investigation themselves.
And CPOC also, they have the meetings and they have events where they teach the public all about this. And there's a website as well that's available to us too.
And on the auditing side, they occasionally make them available to the public. So if you want to check up on CPOC's website, you can read police shooting and incident summaries. I did look at some of those. They're pretty brief, I will say. It's usually just like a paragraph with kind of the facts and stuff. But some of those audit documents are a bit more dense and have information in there involving anything from how many times a police officer has body cams on when they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm. So, Abby, how are you feeling about this? Because you took a real deep dive in all of this about what this commission cannot do, and the resources that are available to us, the public.
Yeah, we covered so much in this research. I think from looking into this, it seems like the first 5 years of the commission have not been smooth sailing. There's been employee turnover. It sounded like maybe some infighting, which I read a lot about on Axios Philadelphia, if you want to check out their reporting there. The commission hasn't gotten the rights to independent investigation, which I think is really kind of the crux of its creation. So, we could see in the next year a lot change for CPOC, depending how union negotiations go. But, what this commission is going to look like in another 5 years, we'll see.
Yeah, and I think overall there definitely has been more oversight. And I think I appreciate the fact that there is data collecting, that there are community meetings and folks looking into recommendations for just how to make things better when it comes to policing, and also that ultimately impacts our relations with police officers in our communities. But I think that if we want to see more progress being made, that the commission does need more powers here, or this could be a good way to fix what people have been saying for years now. And that is better policing in our communities so we can interact with each other a lot better. But that all remains to be seen.
Absolutely.
Abby Fritz, senior producer here at CityCast Philly. Thanks so much for chatting with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on today.
Coming up, I'm chatting with Center City District, the team behind CCD SIPs. If you work or live in Center City and you haven't discovered SIPs yet, you're going to want to hear this. Hey there, I'm here with Giovanna Pruiti, Director of Promotions and Activations at Center City District, the team behind SIPS. And also joining us is Skylar Carey, a marketing specialist for ERA Agency. Welcome to CityCast Philly.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Super happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Giovanna, we're going to start with you. SIPS has been running in Philly for over 20 years now, but for someone who's never experienced it, what is it and what makes it more than just a happy hour?
Yeah, so Center City District SIPS really is Center City's premier after-work experience. It's our social hour that creates opportunities for connection among coworkers and friends. I like to say, honestly, that it's an incentive for people to step out of the office and stay a while. Whether that means grabbing a bite and a few drinks with colleagues at a spot close to your building, or catching up with friends to go to that new spot you've been meaning to check out. It's a program for the past 2 decades that has helped to support local businesses through a slower summer season. And at this point in time, it's more than important to continue to support these places. You know, we want to remind folks that Center City District SIPS isn't just, one deal, one menu that's at all of these places, but it's a standardized price that brings attention to dozens of local and diverse options to choose from. And it's really just a way to experience the best hours of the summer with people that you want to spend time with.
Love it. It's just so fun, too. Like, the city is just full of energy. Skylar, from a restaurant's perspective, what does being part of SIPS actually mean for ERA Agency and other restaurants during the summer months here in Philly?
Yeah, so during these summer months, which are particularly a slower season for restaurants, it's huge because it brings new energy and traffic into Center City. And we see so many people that come in who may have not visited before, whether they're like stopping by for margaritas and tacos at one of the restaurants I do social media for, Bar Bum Bond, or they're coming for small plates and cocktails at Charlie Was a Sinner. And a lot of those guests do end up becoming repeat customers as well. It creates a really social atmosphere, so people are leaving the office, meeting up with coworkers and friends, trying multiple spots in one night, and really engaging with the city. So for restaurants, that visibility and momentum is incredibly valuable.
For both of you, one thing that stands out about SIPS is that it happens in Center City, where so much is going on, so much is happening. What is it about this particular neighborhood district that makes a program like this possible?
Philly is a city of neighborhoods, right? And where do all of those neighborhoods intersect? It's Center City. All roads lead to Center City. So whether you are commuting in from South Philly or West Philly, or, you're meeting friends from your neighborhood in Fishtown or Southwest, you can come to Center City, number one, because it's convenient, right? We have such a high concentration of bar and restaurants in walking distance to each other that you could kind of bop from place to place, grab a bite here, maybe grab a cocktail at the next place. You can meet up with friends that kind of work within a few blocks of you, and you don't feel like you have to go crazy to find a spot to settle at. And also, it's the diversity of businesses that participate in SIPS. Center City has such a huge concentration of a variety of different places, right? So whether it's a sports bar or an outdoor beer garden or a rooftop or a cocktail lounge or a really beautiful restaurant bar, you can find the perfect place for you, the perfect sip for you. Again, all in walking distance. Whatever you're feeling that day, we have it in Center City, and we want everyone to experience, their own SIPS adventure.
How about for you, Skylar?
Totally. I mean, backpacking off what Giovanna said, Philadelphia is the most walkable city in the United States. So everything's really easy to get from one point to another. People are bopping around. There's such a diverse cultural atmosphere where people are trying new things that they've never tried before, and they're experiencing new people, new places, and it's really just a memorable experience. And it creates a natural flow throughout the entire Center City and throughout the neighborhoods. And for example, for places like my restaurants, Bar Bum Bon and Charlie Was a Sinner, you really do feel that energy during SIPS nights. The streets are so active, the patios are so full, people are exploring. It turns Center City into this really vibrant social hub during the summer.
I can't wait. Giovanna, Skylar, thank you both so much for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Can't wait to see you at SIPS.
CCD Sips runs every Wednesday from 5 to 7 all summer long in Center City. For the full list of participating locations and everything you need to know, head to ccdsips.com. We'll have the link in our show notes. Thanks for listening. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Let us know your thoughts about this commission and share this episode with a friend. Rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. And don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Philly neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.